This is Polyamory Weekly, tales from the front of responsible non-monogamy from a pansexual, kink-friendly point of view. A warning for our under-18 listeners. This is an adult-oriented podcast about really lascivious things, like communication and honesty in relationships. If you're under 18 and looking for upfront advice and answers to questions about sex, please visit scarletteen.com.
This is Polyamory Weekly, episode 556 for May 29th, 2018. Coming up on today's show, are shared calendars enough? That's coming up on today's show. Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Minx. Really happy to be back behind the microphone and talking about poly stuff with you folks. And before I get into this week's topic, I happened to see on Facebook something that, so it's not quite poly, but it's definitely poly-friendly. This is from Jorith, who posted that the Netflix Party Chrome plugin lets you watch the same Netflix show with people in other locations. Now could this possibly have poly applications? Why, I do believe that it could. So basically it gives control to one person so a show can be synced up and then everyone will be watching the same thing at exactly the same time. And there's even a chat window so you can chat together. And it even works across countries. So everybody who's watching does have to have their own Netflix account and login. And you can only watch shows that are available in the country of all of the viewers. So for example, when I went to Ecuador, I discovered that about 75% of my Netflix queue was unavailable. When I went to Costa Rica, about half. So there's that. But Jorith writes, it only takes 5 minutes to set up. And I think that's fantastic. I remember when I was first dating Sarah Ely. All right, this was a while ago, so I'm going to date myself. But we would watch Battlestar Galactica together. And she would burn the DVD and send it to me. And then we'd both put it in the same time and sync up like over the phone, over Skype, right? And so it'd be like, okay, so here's what I'm seeing. We'd make sure that we were pretty close to the same time, but we could never be exact because, because all human, there was plenty of room for human error. This Netflix Party Chrome plugin, that sounds fantastic. I'm so excited. It's like, isn't it wonderful living in the future? So I finally spent a little time this weekend to address my horribly neglected email inbox. I am so sorry to folks who haven't received an email from me, but I barely made any headway at all, but I got to read a couple of emails and some of them were just, it's always so fascinating the questions that listeners, I should say, come up with. And this was one that seems really simple. There were a lot of nuances to it. So the big question was, does having a shared calendar mean you don't need to disclose plans, events, etc.? That was the question our listener asked. My current scenario, our listener writes, I'm in the closed triad for about 8 months. They've been together for 8 years. Though they've played around with swinging in thirds, they've never had a relationship with a third person, so this is new for all of us. We agreed at the beginning, for now it's closed, and we cross the bridge when we get there, reopening it. Recently, we all shared calendars to be able to better plan date nights and days since we're working with 3 non-traditional work schedules. When the calendar was first shared, about 2 weeks ago, I noticed there was a Friday night drink scheduled with 2 people I've never heard of. Now, usually because I live an hour away, I spend my weekends with them. It's been assumed that I come on Friday and stay. Flash forward to last night, Thursday, and I've heard nothing about this event, the people, or that I'm explicitly not invited. I think D mentioned once that she and Y had drink plans, but that's it. So I'm assuming D and Y are the couple. I just assumed I wasn't invited, so I made my own plans and said I wasn't coming. Last night, while having dinner with Y, I asked who and where and what, and he fully explained. Another couple that they met at a fetish party. There was a lot of sexual tension, but nothing beyond kissing ever happened. Obviously, this all came as a surprise to me. I'd never heard of these people, nothing was said about them, and I guess recently this other couple reached out and asked the two of them to come over for drinks at their house. Look, I totally trust my partners. I was just really surprised to learn all of this information, and the fact that it seemed sprung on me, despite being on the calendar, seemed kind of unfair. Naturally, I'm upset about this. Y said that D said she told me they were having drinks and assumed that she told the details. Y has zero interest in these people other than friends, and that they, Y and D, discussed whether or not to invite me and decided not to. I was fully reassured, and though I feel slightly better, I'm still not feeling awesome about it, and I think most of that comes from 1. The habit of them just making plans with each other and forgetting that I'm also a human with a schedule, which makes me feel a hierarchy in some weird way. 2. Feeling really surprised. 3. The basis of their friendship with these people and how, to me, they popped out of nowhere. And why now? None of us have a shortage of friends or social life. So the question was, how do you deal with events, planning, scheduling with multiple partners? I feel like in a mono relationship, I'd easily give the other person a heads up. Hey, totally not available Friday, see you X, but I'm wondering why this is happening differently. Okay, so a couple of questions that you asked in your email. The first thing I'll say is most people would probably feel the way that you felt. I don't think any of us like to have our partner's date night sprung on us as a surprise. I don't know many people who really love surprises that don't involve like birthdays and puppies, right? So that's a perfectly natural and normal feeling. I would also say it's only been 2 weeks that you've been sharing calendars, so, I'm willing to chalk this up as a communication glitch, and to take this as an opportunity to figure out what types of communication would work better than just having a shared calendar where events magically appear on their calendar and you have no fucking idea what they are. So, a couple of principles. You mentioned the standing date night on Friday, and I'll point out that for most people, if you do not have a verbal or written agreement of a standing date, then you don't have a standing date. Assumptions generally don't work very well in mono or poly or any type of relationship, really. It's really important to explicitly state. So there was a point when Lusty Guy and I were dating, and we said, okay, so our standing date nights are going to be Tuesdays and Fridays. Those were our standing date nights. Now, we could always call or email and say, oh, hey, something come up. Can we switch Friday and Thursday? Or can we do Saturday instead of Friday? That's fine. But the standing date night, we stated explicitly. And so if something were to change, we had to reach out and communicate that directly with the other person. So just because you've always done it doesn't mean that, unless you state it explicitly with your partners, and this is a great opportunity to start doing that, then you can't really assume that that's what everybody's thinking. So never assume, always ask. As I said before, surprise dates are no fun. Calendars are no substitute for communication. Calendars are the opportunity for you to ask about anything that pops up that you don't see or recognize. If you put something on the calendar, it is your job to call or write everybody interested to explain what that is. You don't just get to put something on the calendar and then assume that everybody's going to show up. They may not know what it is. So clarify everything. A calendar is more like a backup or a reminder system. And by the way, that's a good time for a check-in. So if Y and D had put this on the calendar and talked to you about it, that would have been a great time for a check-in to say, hey, I know we said we're a closed triad, but we met these people, there was sexual tension. One of us is not really interested in dating them, but it's something. So let's just do a check-in and see how we're feeling about our relationships in the existing triad. And then we'll all feel comfortable with what's going on that date. Now, there's another thing that you mentioned that does kind of rankle me a little bit as somebody who's was traditionally solo poly. And that's that they basically, Y and D discussed together whether or not to invite you, decided not to, and then threw it up on the calendar. So the thing is, if you're in a triad, if you're involved in a relationship or with one person in a relationship, You get to have a say in decisions that are made that affect you, and their dating somebody else affects you. So it is kind of weird that they talked together, didn't involve you in that discussion, and decided to exclude you. I don't think it's weird to feel weird about that. You are involved. You have a right to be included in decisions that affect you. Once again, check out the Relationship Bill of Rights. But I'll put a positive spin on it and say this is a really good opportunity to talk about the Relationship Bill of Rights and to encourage that three-way decision making, or at least for them to give you a call and say, hey, we set up this date night with these people we met a while ago. Do you want to come or not? I mean, we're kind of feeling like it should be just us, but if you want to come, happy to invite you along. They should give you the opportunity to say no. One of the wonderful things I've learned about being with Ellen Lusty Guy is that most people like to be asked. Even if their answer is always no, it's just good communication and it's just polite always to ask anyway. Even though it's not unusual for me to have physical issues where I can't go out to things, I still want my partners and my friends to invite me. I don't want them to stop inviting me just because I said no 9 out of the last 10 times. I still want to be invited if they still like me. And, same thing with Elle and Lustig. I still want to be invited, and likewise they do with me. Give them the opportunity to opt out. You should have been given the opportunity to opt out. It is kind of hierarchical when people are making a decision without you. When you're excluded from a decision-making process, that is kind of hierarchical. That's a little bit of couple privilege showing there. Now, another thing I would assume, though, is that, again, you just started sharing calendars 2 weeks ago. Let's assume goodwill all around. I know that I'm still working on getting out of the habit of being a single solo person and making decisions about my life on my own. Lusty Guy and Elle are really great. Whenever they go to the store, they'll always text me and say, hey, do you need anything? It doesn't occur to me to do that because I'm not used to living with partners where I can do a polite thing and offer to pick something up on my way home. They're really good about it. They've been really patient with me, and I'm finally starting to get in the habit of checking in with them on these things that I used to do just on my own. So let's assume goodwill, and let's assume that that's what Y and D were doing, that they were used to making decisions as a couple, and they didn't bear you any ill will. They weren't trying to hide anything, but it's just that they were used to doing things this way. What I would recommend, though, is use this as a point of communication. Say, hey, this thing happened. It's fine. I feel a little weird. Let's talk about how we want to negotiate dates and how we want to negotiate shared calendar time together. Here's what I don't want. I don't want to be surprised about your going on a date with somebody else. So please do put it on the calendar, but then please also personally tell me what's going on, who it is, and I would really like to have the option of saying yes or no for myself attending. So this is a great opportunity for you guys to hone your communication skills, your three-way communication skills a little bit, and maybe get a little bit better and use the calendar as a tool instead of leaning on it to replace all of your other communication. Well, I hope that helps. I feel like it's always better when Lusty Guy is here to chime in, but I hope that helps a little bit. It's time for your Happy Poly Moment of the Week, brought to you by Fubbly Polyamorists everywhere. And our Happy Poly Moment this week is from Natalie, who said, my 28th wedding anniversary was Saturday, May 19th. That was the weekend my boyfriend and I were having a rare weekend away. My husband is very kitchen table polyamory, and by the way, kitchen table polyamory refers to everybody being able to sit around the kitchen table and have breakfast the next morning kind of thing. And our polycule spends a fair amount of time hanging out together, but sometimes you just need alone time, My husband and I discussed that I would be away for our anniversary and it was no big deal. We'd been married forever and it was cool. Saturday morning, while boyfriend was sleeping in the hotel bed, I left him a note that I was going to the gym. While at the gym, the royal wedding was on the TV, Harry and Meghan, and I think, oh man, I went to buy my husband an anniversary card before I left and leave it where he would find it today, but I totally forgot. Damn. So I text him a happy anniversary and he texts back a heart. All good. When I get back to the hotel room, there's a pink envelope on my pillow with my name on it, in my husband's handwriting. Boyfriend is grinning like a Cheshire. What, I say, was he here? Boyfriend just smirks. Oh wait, did he give this to you the other night when we all had dinner? More smirking. Boyfriend has his phone on, pointed at me as I open the card, which says, my heart symbol is wherever you are. There are threads going out from the heart to infinity. I tear up. The inside message is love you with a bunch of hearts, and my husband had added, happy anniversary, slut, heart, and he wrote the 8 from 28 as the infinity symbol encircling a heart. I grab a tissue and my boyfriend finishes filming and sends it to my husband, the two of them self-satisfied with the execution of their little plan. My heart is so big at that moment, I can feel its weight fill my chest. I wanted to share that love with you, Minx, for all you and Lusty Guy do to shine a light on polyamory and make it feel more accessible to so many of us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, Natalie, that is adorable. I love it when partners or metamors conspire together for a happy surprise like that. Now, that's the kind of surprise that people tend to like. Rainbows, puppies, yes. Well, I think that wraps it up for today's show. Thanks to all our fabulous Polyweekly playmates who subscribe and give us their generous donations every month to help make this show possible. We are a free resource. We've helped hundreds of thousands of people navigate their introduction to and continued success with polyamory. Your donations and your questions help keep the podcast awesome for everybody, both inside and outside the community. Questions, comments, or feedback? Call 802-505-POLY or email polyweekly@gmail.com. And if you have a booking announcement or anything related to the business of Polyweekly, email lustyguy@polyweekly.com. He's still catching up from his email after having been on vacation for a while, but he'll get to you pretty quickly. Thanks for listening, and remember, it's not all about the sex.